comment on their main concerns after casting their ballots.
The main issue for me is the continuation of our democracy. I don't want an autocrat. I don't want someone who is convicted of a felon to be the #1 person in our political environment.
America great again. We need jobs. We don't need another 4 more years of high inflation, gas prices, lying, close the border, murder. America comes first, and Harris is not going to support that.
Good lately, but I feel like she's going to put us back together. I think that, she'll put the whole community, the whole world back together again, because we're so divided right now, and she's about peace, and everything that her opponent has to say is like really negative all the time, like nothing ever positive, everything. So I feel like, that's why I'm voting for her, because I want peace.
U.S. citizens are deciding who will lead the nation in the upcoming 4 years. And to offer more context on this key event, we contact Yvonne Tellez, international law expert. Hi, Yvonne. Welcome to From the South.
Hello, good afternoon. Happy to be here.
Thank you for your time. So businesses near the White House are boarding up store windows and putting up security fences in preparation for possible unrest around the election. Do you think the U.S. is on the wake of another violent power transition?
Well, it is true that we are facing some different elections in the United States due to different factors. However, I don't think that the country will go to some violent riots. There's a big and evident polarization between the population, but I don't think that we can actually talk about violent riots. I think it's just this is the result of the conflicted, or maybe as I said before, the polarized atmosphere, the polarized scenario that United States citizens are facing at the moment. But I'm positive that this will not end in violent manifestations in the end, just the normal manifestations of people supporting their candidate.
As you mentioned, this election day has been marked by a high polarization. At this hour, the winner remains being a big question mark. Why are the U.S. citizens so divided?
Well, there's some very strong events and some very important events that we have to take into account, and that those do not just belong to the current election. I'm talking about the 2024 election, but the what we have faced before. Remember, for example, that Donald Trump has been racing for these elections since the moment he dropped out, or he ended his period in office back 4 years ago. Then we have, for example, these just 170 days of Kamala Harris running for president when Biden dropped out from his election, from his candidacy. So we have Ukraine war, we have the Gaza genocide, we have China. I mean, we have some very strong topics, also climate change, the abortion that has been on the main tabloids and on the principal line, also immigration issues. So this, of course, Kamala and Trump reflect a very strong and different point of view regarding those topics. So that means that even you're in or you're out, you're in favor, you're against, because their flags regarding these topics are completely different. So I think that reflects a very strong opposition between ideas, supporting each of the candidates. Also because they are reflecting their discourse, their campaign lemmas, their discourses, their public discourses, and of course what we've seen from them, talking about Kamala in office and talking about Donald Trump during this whole time, has been completely different, and they have opposed each other very strongly. So that means that I think the United States citizen has been facing very strong lines that differ very evidently. And so that means that that could be one of the answers why they are facing this strong polarization.
The whole world has its eyes upon the US. Why is the general elections a key moment, not just for the US society, but also for the rest of the world, the entire international community, especially for Latin American countries?
Yes, of course, because we have to take into account that United States still holds one of the main roles in the international scenario, uh, just to begin with. Second, we're talking about for example, one of the strongest polarizations between, or the strongest, in a way, cold wars between the economic system right now. I'm talking about China, I'm talking about Russia, and I'm talking about the United States also, because what happens in the United States has a strong impact, because that has to do with the foreign policy, with economy, with those key elections. We're talking about also the country's global alliances, and even those existential questions, for example, just for the future of the American democracy, and also for the entire planet. I'm talking about, for example, the policies regarding the climate change mitigation processes that that countries are supposed to go in favor of. So that means that we're talking about, for example, how the United States is going to face, in this case, the strong raise of the BRICS bloc. How is the United States going um, to assume how the dollar and the inflation that they have been facing during this last years, how are they going to manage, and how this is going to impact? Also, another big topic that has a very great impact in worldwide, it's immigration, because we're seeing that as far as Trump has said and has stated, he will go back to this strong, very anti-human rights measures regarding, for example, immigration, and banning some countries and banning some citizens from different countries. So that means that it will have an impact not just on the regular migration processes, but also on the economy, and not just the economy of the United States, but the economy back home, where people and immigrants go work in the US and send back their money to their home country. So there's a lot of topics that depend on the United States good will. Also, another I think the two main conflicts that we're seeing right now, and I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia, and the support that and the role that United States is going to play by supporting or not Ukraine and Ukraine's weapons, in this case, just to defend from Russia, or a more not just so clear position that what Trump reflects regarding Russia and Ukraine, and also, of course, the Gaza and Palestine and Israel conflict that it's escalating right now and is now um, involving more countries. So that means that either we see how the United States is going to support Israel, because if this strong support from the United States continues to Israel, that means that the Palestinians and the whole region will probably see an escalating of the conflict, even a more tragic one, a more dangerous one, a more serious one, that as we've seen right now. So it has a great impact what is happening today in the United States.
Thank you, Yvonne, for your time hearing from the South. We were talking to Yvonne Tellez, international law expert in the framework of the U.S. general elections. And with this interview, let's go to the
I mean, that's a long-term project. You know, first of all, we have several third-party candidates, and none of them are going to get more than 1 or 2% of the votes. So we're a long way off to building a political alternative to the two-party system, and of course, our electoral system is built to prevent that. It's built to prevent third parties from growing and having any real impact. So, you know, it's a long way off. I don't see it even happening in the near to medium term future. What would have to happen is at least that one of the parties would get 5% of the vote, which would allow them to get federal funding for elections. That would help them a lot. But none of the parties are going to do that. So that, you know, is a disappointment. You know, Bobby Kennedy, he was polling at 20% at one time, and then started to decline to something a little less than 10%. But maybe he could have gotten that 5% threshold. But of course, he left the race and supported Trump. So we're left with candidates that are not going to get that 5%. So I don't see an alternative movement, political movement, for some time.
To know all the latest information on this election day in the U.S., we contact Carlos Montero, teleSUR's special envoy to Washington. Hi, Carlos. What can you share with us at this hour?
So far, so good. The poll, they are going to close in a few hours, and the question is when we are going to start to know the first exit poll. It was election day with a lot of stir, you know, a lot of stake, you know, people are worried what's going to happen, but there were not big incidents. For instance, here in Washington, in the Capitol, museum very close to where I was, a man was arrested with a flare and a gun, but it was somebody who has some kind of mental issues. The police is saying it was nothing to worry. There were also some minor incidents in different voting places all over the country, but nothing to worry. Let me talk about the candidates. Kamala Harris, the vice president, who closed last night her campaign in Pennsylvania, exhorting his followers to vote for her, to asking for a new America, America without hate, America where we can love each other. And she's here already in the Capitol. She's going to wait for the result in Howard University. Howard University is a university that she studied a long time ago. She was a freshman there, and that has an important symbolic value for her. On the other hand, Donald Trump, who closed the campaign in Michigan last night really late, 2 o'clock, I was waiting for him to see what he was going to say in the closing, and really I had to wait a long time because he finished 2 o'clock. He flew back to Florida, and his headquarters, he's going to waiting for the result in one of the resorts he has in Florida. And he has something really interesting in this world. We talk so much about social media. Elon Musk, the owner of X, he's been promoting very strongly Donald Trump. He's going to be with him. They are going to be together, and they are going to be sharing information that you, me, and a lot of people write on X, of former Twitter. So what I mean, he's going to have information beforehand how the USA, they are reacting about the election. But we have to wait, like I was telling you before. No big incident here in the Capitol. Is a beautiful day. Something about when Donald Trump went to vote, he voted this noon in Florida, close to his headquarters. He said, I don't think it's going to be any trouble. They were asking about a measure that is in Florida about abortion. He didn't want to answer that question, how he voted. And he was really, really calm, different than last night when he really showed his age. He was a little bit upset. I don't know why, but he wasn't himself. And this morning he was a little more upbeat, and he said he's going to wait, and he believes he's going to win this election. And they asked him, and what's happening if you lose? Your people are going to accept the result? And he said, yes, of course they are going to accept, but I'm going to win. What about the polls? So far it's a tie, but let's wait for the exit polls to see if there is any difference. But so far we're still waiting. In a few hours they are going to start the first states. That's so important. There are 7 states. They are swing states. They can go like North Carolina, like Georgia, like Arizona. They could go either way. Philadelphia, so important. So let's see what's happened there, and we are going to have a better idea of this election that's really is historic, important, something we've never seen before in this country. A campaign like the one we had that finished last night and the election like today. But so far, this is the formation we have right now, and we are going to go back with you for the moment and come back in any minute. We have new information.
Thank you, Carlos, for all the first-hand information on this crucial event. We will keep in contact for sure.
What this electoral college system means. So there's been a lot of talk in media over the past days about the occasions in which, for example, the president candidate who got the most amount of votes, who was most voted by the citizens, was not the candidate elected president. How does that math work?
Yeah, the math doesn't work because you have Hillary Clinton had more than 3 million votes, more than Trump, but she didn't win. Of course, in 2000, it all came down to Florida, and Al Gore had millions of more votes than George Bush, but somehow George Bush became the president. So I think this is extremely discouraging. And when you try to explain it to young people, it certainly, the math never adds up. There's no serious resolution within either House of Congress to actually change this system. So it's something that we're stuck with for now. And then it comes down to these electors. We don't know who the electors are. The electors are unelected. And in 2016, that came into play because Bernie Sanders in many states won the Democratic primary, but then these electors appointed by the Democratic National Convention were able to say, no, we reject Bernie Sanders for whatever reason, representing the status quo, the establishment of the Democratic Party, and so they went with Hillary Clinton. Once again, a strike against the actual democracy. We should be like so many other countries throughout the world, one vote, one citizen, and that would be more like truly representative democracy.
Yeah, I think it may spell the defeat of Kamala Harris. Because in states like Michigan, you mentioned was an important swing state, you mentioned had the largest Arab American community. By and large, the Arab American community will not vote for her. They will either vote for Trump or they will vote for a third party. I don't know one. I know many Palestinians. I know many other Arabs in my life. I don't know one that's going to vote for Harris because they're not going to vote for a genocidaire. I'm not going to vote for a genocidaire. I'm going to vote. I already voted by mail. I voted for Jill Stein, third party. By the way, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm in Pennsylvania swing state. Donald Trump is literally right across the street. Right, I can see the building he's in right now. Kamala Harris is just up the river. So my city and my state are some of the most central, most important voting areas in the country. And again, I know many people that will just not vote for Kamala Harris because of the support she and Biden have had for the genocide. And, you know, we are people who otherwise might have voted for them, right? Might have voted Democrat because we tend to be more liberal on other issues, but we're not going to do that. So I think she could end up losing because of that one issue.
To ask you, we're talking about a system, an electoral system that has some problems in representation in terms of not representing the actual direct popular vote. How can we understand this system?
Yeah, thank you for the solidarity. Many of us in the United States the world should know, as professors, as educators, as professionals, have been retaliated against just because we stand against genocide. System is the history lesson, and I think it's a necessary history lesson because most people in the United States could not explain what you all at teleSUR just explained. This is something that we inherited from the system of slavery in 1787, and it means that small states have a disproportionate amount of representation in the Senate as well. So a tiny state like a Wyoming or an Iowa would get 2 senators, just like a massive state like California or Texas. It's also very discouraging because if there's a Republican voter in New York or Massachusetts, the Northeast states, the New England states, these are always consistently, historically blue states or Democratic states. So if you're a Republican in those states, what's your motivation to even participate, and vice versa if you're in Alabama or Mississippi, which are historically Republican. So for me, it's mighty curious. The United States, the government, which touts itself as the greatest democracy in the world, which has invaded Panama, invaded Grenada, invaded the Dominican Republic, invaded Vietnam. Well, you see a pattern. It's invaded basically every country in the world in the name of democracy. And then when we actually reflect, where is our democracy? Most of us in the U.S. fail to really understand what the Electoral College means. There's always petitions and demands that we transcend and evolve beyond this system, but year after year, it's politics as usual. And in fact, this is an anti-politics or an anti-participatory, anti-democracy. So it's important for the world at large to know the contradictions of U.S. democracy, which Malcolm X always reminded us was in fact U.S. hypocrisy.
Excellent. So, Professor, what can we say about California and its decision in these coming hours?
California, with its 54 electoral college votes, is an extremely important state. It's almost a guarantee that it'll go blue.